All right. All right, everybody. It's Friday. It's time for Q&A with Alan and Marshall, except Marshall is not here.
I don't look
And
anything like Marshall, I hope.
what's that?
I hope I don't look anything like Marshall.
Nothing. We have someone better than Marshall. We have one of my favorite people, Allie Banholzer, who I have affectionately just started calling the Queen of Lean Six Sigma, the Princess of Profit First. But you know what? Besides being a gold star wife and built and rebuilt an incredible business out of necessity. Allie, thank you for coming. Thank you for and also one of the owners of Shirt Lab for giving back to the industry, and I couldn't be more excited. So actually, be ready. I'm going to try to say less, and Allie's going to talk because there's stuff that this is right in her wheelhouse, and I couldn't be more thrilled. So, how you doing, Allie? I know you were in Nashville, and
Yep, I was in Nashville. I've actually been away from my business 4 of the last 5 weeks between some personal vacation and Shirt Lab. And I actually was at Edison Collective, which is a mastermind group. And so it really tested my shop to see if the things I say about delegating and things, if they really work, and put it to the test.
Well, and that's awesome because I know you were over in the UK, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scotland, and stuff like that, on vacation, another adventure, but gone for, like you said, 5 weeks. And you told me in Nashville that things went great. Your staff stepped up. Of course, you were in touch, but the processes you put in place were working.
Yes. During the 3 weeks that I was out of country, I got 2 text messages from my staff.
And were they real bad, or was it just, hey, FYI stuff?
No, they were just business decisions that they weren't comfortable making, and didn't want to make them without my input.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So question, Alan, sorry. My embroidery production just kicked off. I have noise canceling headphones on, but is it interfering? Is it loud? Can you hear it?
I can hear it, but I don't think it's interfering. If you're listening, let us know. How does that, can you hear it? Is that bothering you? But I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, if it's bothering you, I'll go ask them to do something else for a while. But if it's not bothering you, production rolls.
Production rolls, got to do work. You got to do work.
Or I could actually step outside with my laptop
and while you were out, it wasn't just a vacation. Besides being just, your Lean Six Sigma and Profit First and all these things, you are versed insane. And, you were this far away from being on Deadliest Catch, it sounds like. So, Allie, you were on a sailboat, racing sailboats in Cork, Ireland, correct?
Correct. So I picked up a 40-foot sailboat in Cowes, England, and me and 3 other people sailed that up the southern coast of England till we got to Land's End, and then we popped across the Irish Sea to get to Cork, Ireland, and then we raced for a week in Cork, and then I played tours for a week. But yeah, so did an Irish Sea crossing in a 40-foot sailboat, which if you're not familiar with,
that is not the Caribbean either. There is no bathing suits and suntan lotion.
No, we were bundled up in offshore Fally gear in 45-degree weather. If you're familiar at all with water and sailing, and not to get too far into this because this doesn't help anybody's business, but the winds were coming from the south, which means there was a 2,000-mile fetch, which means that we had 20 to 25 knot sustained winds that had 2,000 nautical miles to build waves. So as we were going across the Irish Sea, it was 45 degrees, and we had 3 meter or 9, almost 10-foot waves most of the time we were out there.
Allie, I love it when you said it doesn't help anybody's business, except it does in a little way. Because you know what? Don't we all need those little breaks, those little downtimes for what it is? And like you said, Your business ran without a hitch. You set up processes. This gives you more confidence. I know you have extreme confidence in your staff, but extreme confidence now.
Yeah, and Alan, the other thing that I will say, I have extreme confidence in my staff and their abilities, and they're fantastic. But along with that, so we all do different things that are challenging.
Right.
And, you say you go sailing or you race sailboats, and a lot of people think, hey, I got a margarita in my hand, sitting in my swimsuit on the bow of my boat and enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
And yes, sometimes I do that.
Absolutely.
However, I'm doing that this weekend, in fact. However,
hey, you're talking to a guy who went to Asia for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, racing in the Irish Sea is an entirely different, and some of our races, that transit was 5 days. So you're doing 3-hour shifts around the clock.
Yeah.
And then we got in, and the next day we had a race out around Fastnet. And that was a 26-hour race. And so you're on these shifts and you're sleep deprived. So, we all do things that challenge us. We all know Tom.
Absolutely.
Tom likes to run 100 miles at a time. I'm never going to run 100 miles at a time.
Right.
But if you want to plot me, if you come to me and say, hey, we got this sailboat, we want you to sail it across the Atlantic Ocean, I'd be like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Right.
Well, I've
got the training and have done all of that. So mentally and physically, it was a challenge. And in the middle of the Irish Sea, I did say to myself, what the hell am I doing here? This is insane. But it gave me some perspective again in life of I'm capable probably more than I think I am.
Yeah.
Which I bring that lesson back to my business. And when I see things in the business, I'm like, that's just not that big of a deal. We can handle this. Let's just deal with it and move on.
In the future, I'm excited for you. You and I were talking. You said you want to do the race from Chicago, Illinois to Mackinac Island, which is on Lake Michigan. And I'm sure you've started researching, the Great Lakes around Michigan. Those are basically just freshwater seas. They are some places over 2,000 feet deep. Storms come up in the middle of those lakes that we don't even see on the mainland. And boats go down every year, big ships. Most people have no idea that song, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, is a real ship that went down in November of 1975, and it is an underwater graveyard there because of that.
And the power of Mother Nature. I did a race this last weekend, and we had a squall come up on us, and we had 40-knot sustained winds, and it was a race with about 100 boats in it. 5 boats quit the race, 1 boat capsized, and 1 boat demasted. And that was just in the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, pass. Yeah. Well, I don't race, but, I fish. I've been on charters for salmon fishing and stuff in Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, and I've been fishing on Lake Erie, which is the smallest and shallowest of the Great Lakes. That is, I guess, the most dangerous one. Because of the storms and because it's so small, those waves get going back and forth. I guess, and I had no idea.
Yeah, there's no rhythm to them because
a storm came up on us. I was with, I'll say who it was, Anthony Sharples, who was a screen printer and lives out there on Port Clinton. Me and him and one of his friends, and we're out there fishing, and all of a sudden, a storm came on us, and we didn't catch it. And we were way out there in a small boat. And it's the only time I ever thought when I got back, we could die on this one. And we were all just the exhaustion. And that was only 45 minutes of coming through a storm, going around it. That is normally a 10-minute, one. I can only imagine on that what it was like for you. But yeah, anyways, all that, exciting. And that's just part of our industry. And
I'll say do something that scares you just a little bit every day.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see who's listening here. We got a couple people. Of course, our friend Richard Greaves. And Richard, I hated to be the bearer of bad news this morning to you. So real quick, don't know if you know him. He's actually been on this show. I just heard this morning, had to let Richard, that industry veteran Glenn Shull passed away. He was with Rico. He's been on this show. He's in the academy with us, and I'm heartbroken. I don't even know what to say about that. But anyway, so every one of you that I know there and on there, this is an industry. It's a big industry. It's a billions of dollars industry. But you know what? We are all about relationships in our industry, and I appreciate every one of you. So, yeah. So, anyway, so like I said, Richard's here. Sean out of Georgia. How you doing, Sean? I hope things are good. Joe's here. He said, and Joe said he can't hear the embroidery machine. So we're good. Charles out of New Mexico. Charles, hope you're doing well. Mr. Simon Clifford from Techmar in California. Simon, hope you're doing well. And Sean, I don't think I will run 100 miles for the remainder of my life. I'm not sure I ran 100 miles collective in my life. And let's face it, Tom is amazing. Just watching him.
Tom's a machine.
He is a machine. But you know what? I think you're giving him a run for his money in a different way. So,
different.
Awesome. So you've been back. You've been away. You've this past week you were in Nashville at Shirt Lab, and we'll talk about that. Coming back to your shop, how is that?
It's good. I would say my biggest challenge coming back to my shop was weeding through the 4,800 emails I had in my inbox. Most of them being junk that I didn't even need to respond to, but I still have to look through them all, right?
Yeah.
My staff was great. Production was rolling on. We had one of our best months that we've had this year. Actually, we had the best month we had this year. I was basically gone for the month of July, and it was our biggest month so far this year. And I kind of looked at my staff and said, well, maybe I should just leave for August then too. And they're like, no.
And did they say, yes, please go?
Yeah, go. Be gone.
I think, while it's been a weird year, we got to keep grinding and stuff. Things have picked up. I had a very good July also. And I think a lot of shops that I've been talking to have. So, but that doesn't mean we lean back, man. You got to keep grinding. We were just talking about this. I was in a sales meeting before of where are the opportunities that we're not hitting and what we're doing. And that happens. Some of them are big. Some we just go, it's out of reach. We've been there. It's not been a while, but you got to knock on the door. You got to reach out. You got to go after those new customers and new markets. And no matter how seasoned a veteran you are, got to keep, what do we say? Got to keep grinding.
Got to keep grinding. And, I think it's a great time also to stop and look at what you're doing. Have you done good analysis lately on your top 20% of your customers? Do you know who your top niches are? Have you been reaching out to your loyal customers? Have you looked at who normally orders from us this time of year? And okay, if they're normally ordering it from us in August, there's only 2 weeks left in August. It might be too late, but who normally orders in September and October? I should be reaching out to them now to help my September, October, November, right? And so, if you're not super busy, instead of just saying, okay, I'm not so busy, I can go, relax or chill. When we all say we don't have enough time to do these things, hey, maybe now we have enough time to do these things and double down on them.
Yep.
Dust off the business plan and the marketing plan.
I have, and it doesn't relate to the textile industry, but in screen, there is what we call a graphics market where, a lot of it is digital. It is, a lot of big digital prints. I just saw like a 5 meter long ViewTech digital with 3 different size rolls on it going. And I mean, that's huge, just massive. But this company also screen prints, and I said it last week, have invested $1.3 million into a new roll-to-roll screen print machine. We're looking at their reclaim things. So for me, and my boss, I dragged him out of his office there with me yesterday. And you know what? It just reinforces that, man, there is still business out there that you may think it's gone and it's going away. Somebody's getting it and you might be losing it. I've come across 3 different things here in the last week by just getting what I call getting froggy again, going, okay, I'm just going to see where these people are. And
Yeah, you know what, Alan, you and I were talking before the show, and you were telling me about this, and I'm like, I didn't even know there were such things. Like, I'm so into my niche. I do a lot in the industry, but I'm very much in my niche. I've decided I think I just need to follow you around for a week on your calls. And I don't know what I don't know. I'd learn a whole lot.
So there's an account that contacted me. So like I get so varied. Well, I love the textile industry, and I've written more stuff for that. I've been on the phone and emails back and forth trying to come up with a solution for a pad print solution. But this is a manufacturer of like dental tools and things like that they are printing on some of these. I'm not even sure what the tools do. It's not like it's a, pick when you're getting cleaned and stuff. But yeah, so this is the stuff that makes it fun. A few weeks ago, I'm in Traverse City, Michigan on a company, and it's called, all they print are wine glasses.
Yeah.
That's it. Wine glasses, one color on it. And yeah, so, it gets a little fun. The one friend of Richard and I's, who passed away also a couple weeks ago, Gene Hash, was, in that graphic, but in what we call the functional screen print. And we're talking membrane switches, electronic solder inks, things like that, and that's actually converging into the textile market, because all that medical sensory stuff, that's screen printed a lot. And instead of them printing on polyesters and polycarbonates and things like that, when they get a fabric type product, these printers just really do not know what to do. But we talk about controlling your variables, knowing your stuff. This is where, tension just becomes incredible. It's not just, well, it's just mesh. No, it's the kind of mesh. It's so intricate, because
just mesh.
Well, and because some of the inks, it's one thing we talk about the price of plastisol or the price of this. When you're talking, a couple ounces of a silver conductive ink is, $1,500, just for a few grams. You're going to make sure of that. If you get too much, too little, you're messed. So it is just a cool industry. Printing United has a lot of that. If you wonder what some of that stuff is, when you see these huge ViewTech machines and digital, it is just amazing. And I have seen screen print presses that I swear are small, are large mobile homes, manufactured homes. They're just massive. So
yeah.
I
love getting out of the apparel zone. I do the trade shows, particularly Long Beach, and then Printing United. I love getting out of the apparel zone because you don't get that in Long Beach, right? And so, because I am a very creative thinker, and so I go look at some of these other things. I'm like, what could I do with this? Yeah, it's intended to do A, but I might be able to do B, and then I'll go have a conversation and say, hey, theoretically, could this do blah, blah, blah? And they're like, well, sure, you just do this and this, and then you can go and do that. And I'm like, But then I also look at the space I have and the cost of bringing in new equipment. I'm like, stop. You've just got to stop.
But, okay, now it's who can you partner with?
Right.
So I've recently found there's a couple companies that are in this, what I would call graphic market. And one, I know for sure, they're actually now in the apparel space. They have another company across the street, and it is designed for custom apparel. They have a couple automatics, and they're killing it. And it's that convergence of industry. In fact, I'm going to have Eric Colley on the show. I've talked to him about it. I just need to schedule it. I've come across another graphic printer in Indiana that one of these, calling, going, okay, I just need to go kick down a door and see where it's at, or knock on it. And I'm looking at their website. I'm like, wait. They're running in the textile space now also? Interesting. So I don't know what to do with that yet for all of us, but things that make us go, And Allie just froze on us. I think she left. So tell me what you all think about that, and we'll, until she gets back with us, will go, because hopefully she does, because a lot of these topics we have coming up are going to be mostly for her that I need her to talk about. So let's see who else. Dan Campbell is here. Dan, it was so good seeing you and your wife in Nashville. We're going to be talking about the Shirt Lab Live Nashville, man. It was so great. I think it was a great event. William's here from a beach in South Carolina. How nice. Cindy from Texas. Hope you're doing well. Looks like Allie will be logging back in. We'll go from there and see what's happening. So guys, make sure, if you haven't, make sure you're sharing this, on there. When we put these posts out, make sure you're sharing it, telling people, sharing it on your social media. That helps us so much. Let me know what's going on with your business. Of course, we say this is a Q&A. We'll have topics, but those topics are written in sand, man. What's going on with you? What would you like to talk about? How can we help you? What's in your mind? And actually, our first topic, and I'm going to have you all, it's not old news, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. What's everybody thinking about the SNS and Alpha merger? It was weird for me. I heard about it, and the people that I know that work at SNS were telling me that some of them, they found out that day that we all found out. How does that affect you guys? Let me know. Anytime there's a merge like that, it could be good. I've heard it could be good. It can be bad. I've heard more people, in my area. Allie just texted me and said she's working on getting back, so no problem. Tell us, what you think. Charles has some. He says, Charles, he hadn't heard about it. Okay. It happened last week or a week before. There we go. She's back. She's outside now.
I am.
So the merger, the prevailing company, Charles, is SNS purchased Alpha. Cindy says she didn't hear that either. Wow. I used to buy from Alpha, but I've gone more SNS, and I'm hearing that more from people. So, Allie, what do you think? I kind of threw this topic out while you were gone just to get everybody else's thoughts on it. I figured everybody heard about it, and it looks like a couple people who are pretty in tune from the industry still didn't know.
Yeah, so I find it interesting. I'll be honest, my experience with Alpha has not been great. So I only ever order from them when I can't get the item from anywhere else.
And can I, not to interrupt you, can I tell you, that's exactly what I've heard in my area.
I used to order from Broder Brothers a lot. They got acquired by Alpha. Their customer service went down. I've never had one of their reps in my shop. So customer service wise, we all have our choices. And so I use SNS more. I'll be honest, the other thing that I really didn't like about Alpha was the direct to consumer piece of it, right? Yeah. They're competing directly with me. So I'm going to be really curious to see what SNS does with Alpha. Obviously, they'll consolidate some warehouses, streamline things there. Hopefully they bring in those brands that I wasn't able to get anywhere but from Alpha.
Sure.
But I'm hoping they don't bring on the direct to consumer piece of it, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And I wish I could say their direct to consumer is a client of EasyWay, but I don't know. I don't deal with them, and I haven't really asked. I'm staying out of it to begin with. So we don't know. Yeah. I don't think we know either. So what
I'm hoping, we've seen this where let's see, Augusta acquired Russell.
Mhm.
S&S acquired Alpha.
Did Augusta
Um,
acquire Russell or the other way around?
Augusta acquired
Or
Russell.
Russell. Okay, so yeah, fruit sold off that part of it.
Well, but I believe, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. That's my understanding of it. And I think as things get more and more challenging, what I hope we don't end up with is such a consolidation of the smaller distributors that we're down to just one or two, because I think competition is healthy in the industry.
100%. And I'm hearing that also, that now that instead of 3 majors being Alpha, SNS, and Sanmar, now there's 2 majors. I've heard 2 thoughts on this. One, people are going, I hope this doesn't hurt the service and stuff we're come to expect from SNS.
Right.
2, okay, it's always been Sanmar and them, which are different products. And a lot of people on the smaller independents up here by my area, it's, One Stop Supply, which is a very large independent.
Yeah, and
still has
here
one owner.
on the East Coast, we've got Atlantic Coastal Cotton, and we've got Pennant Sportswear, and
Yep,
I think that competition is healthy.
absolutely.
So I hope we don't end up with just 2 big ones.
Yeah, so it remains to be seen. Let's see, Sean says, supposedly Alpha has been on the market for a while and SNS is owned by a large investment group. I hope that SNS separates the promo product from the Alpha line, though. I think remains to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to keep 4imprint. I don't think is 4imprint part of them. I thought 4imprint was separate.
Yeah, I don't know.
I might be wrong. 4imprint is a separate company, I believe.
I thought it was separate, but
yeah. Alpha's was called Prime Source.
Yeah,
if I remember right, but I could be wrong. 4imprint is a very large company up in, I think, Milwaukee or Minnesota. And we've all seen the commercials. Incredible marketing. So, I mean, 4imprint for certain, but that one's going to stick with us. It's going to be like buy Minin. It's amazing. No. Cindy, Broder used to be our main vendor. Then we got better service from Sanmar. Now our main ones are Sanmar, SNS, and a few smaller ones. And it always comes down to service.
Yep.
Always. Who are the reps calling on you? Who can you get in your customer service? What are the answers? If there's a problem, how are they handled? It still comes down to that always. Hi, Lakeisha. Good to have you on. Charles says 4imprint is Alpha Broder printing promo products direct to consumer. Interesting. Okay.
I can't see that that's going to go away for imprinted. I mean, I don't know their books, so
it's too big.
But
yeah,
it's too big. I can't imagine it.
It'll be interesting. Ray Greenwood is here. He says, greetings, Screenlanes. Ray, I hope you're doing well. I talked to you yesterday. Charles says he's pretty sure anyways. It might be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
So
on the geek side of me, the engineering, data, and geek side of me, Alpha Broder has a robotic system for picking orders where they've got the little robots that go out into the warehouse, and there's a person stationed in the aisles, and they go to the person, and there's an iPad, and on the iPad it tells the person to pick these items and put it in the box, and then the robot goes to the next space and does that, and then brings it back to pack and ship. Sanmar has a different system. They use a grid system, much like Cutter and Buck.
Okay, I love Cutter and Buck products, by the way.
Yes, I do too. Much like Cutter and Buck, where it's all picked and pulled by the robot and then brought in. And I'll be curious to see like error rates, speed of shipping, costs. I would love to see the analysis between the two robotic systems, but that's just the geek in me.
SNS also has a robotic system also, don't they? I think on some of their plants are implementing it. I thought I saw the video there at Shirt Lab. So, yeah.
Yeah.
which is pretty good. It's all pretty interesting on this stuff. I've been into not Centos, but if you've heard of Universe, I've been in there, and it's just one big robotic system,
Yeah.
picking and packing. It's incredible to see these things. Just rails going everywhere of carts.
That's the grid system with the rails is the same as Cutter and Buck, and that's what Sanmar is putting into their new Virginia warehouse is the rails. And so so yeah, I don't know. I get that's a part of the industry that really doesn't pertain to us, but if you're digging in deep, it does, because we're talking error rates and how fast we get our blanks.
Yeah.
It affects our business. So.
Absolutely. Sounds like my MasterCard's order picking system. Broder? I don't know what you mean by Broder there. Ray, let us know. My MasterCard is, for people that know, is an industrial supply house for industrial products, like a Fastenal, a Granger, things like that. Mm-hmm. So as a consumer of apparel, Allie, what are the things that when you heard about this makes you nervous? What are the things that, have you talked to your reps at all?
Yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to my reps as much. But like I said before, if we're whittling down to just 2 major suppliers, right now I've got, let's say I need a Gildan shirt. I've got 4 different suppliers I can go to be able to check inventory if things are getting slim.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a holdover from COVID time when inventory was so hard and you were looking at all the different distributors.
Right.
But, if we're getting down to 2 suppliers, they really have so much control over the industry when it comes to pricing, and then when it comes to what products are even available, that it limits our choices.
100%.
And so, inventory, where are we getting it from? Mm-hmm. I think most of them all have about the same number of warehouses and about the same locations for, the big 3. But inventory and brands that are carried, and Sanmar has so many of their house brands, which I personally love, but I love a lot of their house brands. But let's say a Gildan or a Jersey or a Fruit, if I offered those on an online store and Sanmar doesn't have them, I could go to S&S, or I could go to Alpha, or I can go to Atlantic Coastal Cotton, and as that dwindles down, what's that going to do for inventory?
Are you finding more companies are having a house brand, even the independent ones? I know One Stop has their own brand, Enza, which is a real nice brand.
Yep. And who just bought Toltex? Is it?
I didn't know that.
Somebody bought the Toltex brand. It might have been Atlantic Coastal Cotton or S&S. I can't remember. Somebody on here might know.
Yeah, if somebody knows, let us know. I have not heard that. So, man, interesting times here. It's still Sean says S&S bought Toltex.
S&S bought Toltex.
Yeah.
So, Alan, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, like I said, all I've heard, I never heard. I always heard Alpha was big, but I always heard they were difficult. Everybody used them as a secondary supplier if I couldn't get it, and sometimes third supplier, because I was just in Chicago. And I was talking to a client, a couple of automatics, nothing huge, but average, that's the business they do. He says it's mostly S&S, and he would go to One Stop before he'd go to Alpha, just because he hated dealing with Alpha so much.
Yep.
So he said, but it's in a market where, it's Sanmar's there if you can get the same product. If not, they have a lot of their own private, which is fine.
So I also wonder, like, this is not bash Alpha time. I'm not trying to bash Alpha.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But this goes to this. I want to tell you a quick story, and it goes to, I wonder if part of Alpha's problems too is the same problems we're all having with hiring and being able to find anybody with experience in the industry. So I know somebody in Shirt Lab that ordered bobbins from Alpha. and
Hmm.
she ordered a quantity of 2. Well, if you're in the industry, you know a quantity of 2 is 2 boxes,
Yep.
which each box has 144 bobbins in it. So she's
Yeah.
ordering almost 300 bobbins, right? When she got, and the price on them was I don't know, $28 or whatever,
Right.
standard prices for a case of bobbins.
Sure.
And when it was picked and she got it, they sent her 2 bobbins.
Ah.
2. Oh, look at my balloons. Sorry. They sent her 2 bobbins. And then she called customer service and they're like, well, you ordered 2. She goes, I'm not paying $28 a bobbin. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, it's 2 cases. It's not 2 bobbins. And
Right.
like it took her 3 weeks and multiple phone calls to get it resolved.
Um, the only thing, and I got to be careful because I know one person that worked at Alpha's direct print, and she was pretty high up, and she left a few months ago. I called her, and she didn't know anything about the sale. She wasn't surprised. The only thing I heard from my source is that Alpha was very top heavy management and very young and experienced management. So it was changing as a client. She goes, I don't know why, what, or whatever. She goes, but I saw it going, this is not what it started to be when I first went there, and I'm getting out.
I did hear that they had a lot of new management that was outside of the industry.
Yeah. And it
didn't
wasn't no industry experience. She said a lot straight out of college, nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But yeah.
But you've got to learn and know the industry nuances, especially this industry.
Of
This
any
industry is
100%. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Mr. Kitson, venture capital investment is only about the bottom line. And I was just going to say that when you're owned by a bigger, private equity group of venture capitalists, they're only going to give you so much money to hire people to do stuff with, and they want to see the bottom line, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, we all know about Printavo and Inktavo.
Yep.
And still riding that, seeing where that train's going.
Yeah. And I
like, do we have a bullet train and this is going to be fantastic, or are we heading for a train wreck?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know yet.
Yeah. Or is this going to be, it's flipped over in Ohio and now it's, a natural disaster?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I've not seen a lot of companies bought private equity do well. You know what? I'll take that back. I believe, and I might be 1,000% wrong. If I am, don't hold me to it. Someone correct me. I do believe Rock Corporation in Portugal is owned by a bigger group now, because I know when I was there, it was still owned by, I met the owners, the original owners and stuff, and I think they have sold, and that's at a price, and it seems to be doing okay. But for the most part, I don't, when a big private equity group buys them, I'm not sure. It always seems like there's a few issues.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just my perception on. So don't know.
So I'm going to flip that on its ear a little bit. Is that private equity comes in, and do we have investors who don't know the industry, or do we have an industry that has grown up with such poor practices that we don't adhere to a standard business model?
Both. I think, and this is going to be very, very rudimentary from someone I go, most companies that are bought are started by individual owners, and this company has just grown. And when it comes time going, wait, this group wants to give me how much money? I'm out. Fine.
Yeah.
So
I mean, at the end of the day, it's business.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, here, look what Greg gets. Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not that
But
they
yeah, I
don't.
mean, my business is my baby. I have poured blood, sweat, tears, and, you know, into it. But if somebody comes along with the right number and says, hey, we want your business, but we don't want you, I'm like, peace out. I'm going to go live on a sailboat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But then there's the part of, and Greg, I know you went through this, you built it from the ground up, one heat press. Al, you've been in the same thing, and this is your baby. It's not a business, it's your child and
Yep.
stuff. But there comes a time going, but that's the entrepreneurial spirit. It's hard to let go.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, but I
absolutely.
just launched 2 kids from college, so I can launch a business too.
Exactly. And I think the other entrepreneurial spirit. So my uncle, who owns progressive foam technology, I know, I want to say it was Dow or someone who makes one of those other pink or blue foam came to him and wanted to buy, and he just didn't. I couldn't believe he didn't.
Yeah.
And he was, my aunt was telling me, she goes, do you wish he would have? He goes, he would have just started something else.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now he's semi-retired, and he's loving retirement. You never think he would. I never thought he would retire 100%, but yeah.
That's part of the entrepreneurial challenge. All right, I did this one. I
Yep.
sold it. I made some money. Now let's go see what else I can do.
Yeah, exactly. Allie, do you know the number?
Yes, I do. Do you have it for me to sell it to you, Greg?
Greg wants back in.
Do you want back in? It's all yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I know independent, suppliers and stuff like that going, yeah, somebody approached me. I have a number.
Yep.
And I think it's always good if it's done right when someone buys it. You know what? I like it when the principal owner is like, yeah, I'm here for 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, whatever.
Yep. But I will also be the first one to admit that I think my baby is prettier than she is. So the number I have may not be the number somebody else is willing to come with.
And that is common. That is common. I've seen with acquisition of independent companies. And mostly when I see of suppliers or stuff like that going, they only offer me this. Yeah, well, it should be, it should be worth this. Well, to you it is, because takeaways, let's strip away the sentimental and all this and that. It still just comes down, what's your assets, what's your debt, what's your profit and loss. Let's just get to the real thing. Yeah, everything else. Yeah, but I did this much work. Yeah, irrelevant. Sorry, doesn't matter.
What does your EBITDA say?
Yeah, exactly.
And oh, by the way, none of us really have intellectual property or proprietary property. There may be a couple of us out there that do with the way our web technology is built, but it's not going to stay that way for long.
The sad thing that I've seen, and voice of experience talking, gotta love it.
Yeah.
From someone, and Greg, as an example, you had a business. Boy, do I miss the pro screens and being there and seeing you at shows and everything, because when Greg spoke and taught and stuff from someone that had huge access into his company, it was lived out, but sometimes you're going, man, if they just kept it the same, the people that buy these, they'd be in a lot better shape. That usually doesn't happen, and sometimes it's sad.
I'll tell you, if you buy an airline ticket and fly to Greg and take him out to dinner and pick his brain for an hour, it'd be some of the best money you spent.
100%. So remember, goodwill is a phantom asset. Absolutely. So so love having Mr. Kitson on. Man, how much fun was it, Greg, seeing you? I'm so glad you made the trip down to Atlanta last year at Printing United. It was just great seeing you. So absolutely. Well, man, we've talked a lot on one subject. So and got there. Let's appreciate everybody's input and keep it coming. Let's talk about this. Shirt Lab Nashville. Real quick, Dan Campbell's here. Allie, tell us what I was there. Now, I am not an artist. I really don't even know how to use Photoshop, for all I do well, art is not my wheelhouse. But I thought it was a very good event. I know it's the first time for Marshall, you and Tom doing an event like that. But I thought even the people that might have been a little bit newer and kind of got lost, the caveat was they said, you know what, this is fine. I'm still learning a lot. I'm going to watch the video when I get home and figure it out and do it. So it just helped them way over the learning curve.
Yeah. So this event, for those that weren't there, aren't familiar, we limited it to about 30 people, 30 students. We had about 40 people there total with some of our sponsors and instructors. Dan was one, JJ McCampbell was one, and then Marshall. I just sat back and helped orchestrate behind the scenes. And
I wrote a
yeah,
blog
like you said, what's that?
I wrote a blog article during
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I did some A/B testing with ChatGPT. It was kind of fun and interesting. I did learn a lot about Midjourney. So yeah, it was a different format. We've got some really good feedback on it. Have some ideas of how we might do it differently. If we were to do something like that again, it was all artwork. It was separations in Photoshop. And it was some pretty advanced techniques.
Mhm.
And yeah, there were some beginner Photoshop users there that they still loved it, like you said, but we'll have to go back and watch the videos to be able to keep up and do it.
Right.
But all in all, we've gotten some really good positive feedback. I can tell you that Marshall and I right now are working on the Shirt Lab Summit, which
Looking
is
forward to that.
100% virtual. It will be released the first or second week of November. We're doing the interviews now and doing all the editing and things that way. And it is all on profit. So we're going back to not so much the basics. There's still there'll be some advanced information there, but I'm kind of getting back to the Shirt Lab roots of what is this all about? Sales and marketing and
Yep.
profit. And what we have heard overall, generally speaking, the industry, this is very anecdotal, but from the numbers that I've gathered and people that I've looked at, the industry as a whole is down about 18%.
Yep, I would agree.
And okay, so when business is down, how do you continue to squeeze out the profits and stay viable and make your business work for you? So Shirt Lab Summit, second week in November, will all be on profit. And then about February timeframe, we're going to do a 30-day sales challenge, which will be also virtual, but a very hands-on, where every day you'll have a task to complete for your business that you can hopefully complete in about 30 minutes to an hour. So it won't be too time consuming. And then at that end of the month, you're going to compare your sales process and how your sales are going versus before you did work that 1% better every day.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of the upcoming. And then Marshall and I are meeting at Printing United to plan out 2025. I can't believe it's going to be 2025.
Jeremy Duncan says arts and seps. I like it. You missed it, Jeremy. It was a good time.
Yep.
Dan says, and Dan was the speaker. He did a great job. As an artist, it was good to get an idea of how many different ways there are to do the same thing. Absolutely.
Yep.
No matter what, I love, and I got some stuff written down that I learned there. While I said I'm not an artist, Marshall was going through, art room process and art flow. And he was talking about things of how do you manage customers when they just say, just make me something cool. And I started laughing. But, I started making notes because I'm thinking, man, this is all just sales. And they're talking to a customer, and I actually wrote, it said detailed information gathering on that part he did. And it was right at the beginning. And I just wrote underneath, I go, this is sales. And I wrote, it was, expectations, what are their expectations? Get all the relevant info, ask for the pertinent negatives. What do you want? What don't you want? What are you looking for? To me, that's just finding their pain points.
Yep.
And doing that, use shop common language. Don't get too technical. I can get very technical. I got to bring it down to how it's affecting them right there. And then what's the most important thing? Because if you have the most important thing, that's the obstacle, that's their pain point, and you come up with a solution, it's yours.
Yep. And then taking that to the next step, we brought it into production of how are you organizing your artwork?
Absolutely.
How do you know on repeat orders that you're printing the right art and the right colorways? How do you know, that what you're sending to the screen room to start making screens was the final approved artwork? What are your naming conventions?
Yep.
Where is it being saved? How do you know that you've communicated the right placement?
Yep.
So following all of that through to production.
Yep. Dan always says this also. Get image style reference from customer as to what style they're looking for and what do they like. So perfect.
Yep. Yeah. Because my art department, if you come to my artist and say, hey, I trust you, make something cool. My artist is a metal head with a red mohawk and combat boots.
Awesome.
If that's what you want for your family reunion t-shirt, that's great. But somehow I'm not thinking that's what you want for your family reunion t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. The skull with the dripping blood coming out of the eyes, probably not.
Nope.
Looks cool. Great artwork. Grandma's not going to dig it.
No.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, man, so good stuff, man. It was such a great thing. And I can't wait for the summit. Man, thank you. I know you guys have asked me. I sent an email back, said I'm in, and it said, who do you want to interview you? It said, schedule a time with Allie and Marshall. And of course, I replied back. I go, doesn't matter. I may have got an email from someone today going, pick me, pick me.
Oh, well, that must have been Marshall because I
didn't want to say it.
I didn't see your reply. I think it's not a popularity contest, and Marshall and I have a great working relationship. It's funny, but when we do this, there is kind of that underlying tone of like, okay, who's getting picked to do more interviews, Marshall?
Well, my thing, Marshall and I talk all the time, and I was thinking, going, it would be fun to be interviewed by Allie.
Yeah.
If I came up and all that. So
Marshall, I'll interview you, absolutely.
I got to figure out the topics though, because as a technical guy, all mine on profit it's profit out of production. How are you being profitable with your production? And
well,
what are the changes?
That's important though, because you can sell, sell, but if your production isn't efficient and effective, then there's no profit there.
Yep, absolutely. And that's where, when Marshall put on the Profit First seminar, which was where I first met you. I was the only one on technical, which, not to mention, Allie, I think I told you, was that the scariest time I've ever spoke in my life?
Was it really?
Well, okay, the principles now. I'm up there on stage with Tom Rowan, who I didn't know that was the first time he spoke.
Yeah.
Who I knew about in marketing. Mark Coudray, me, Marshall. I had to follow Coudray.
Well, and Kitson was there.
Well, and that's the thing. In the audience was Greg Kitson, Richard Greaves, Scott Fresner, Lon Winners. Who else? There was more, Academy people there. And I'm like, what am I doing up here? And then just massive amounts of printers who I know now. And I was terrified. But I wasn't in the Academy at the time. And so
that was the first event I went to in the rebuilding of my business after my husband had died. And
because we were all at dinner, just the speakers, and then Marshall. In fact, there's a picture of me, Tom, Marshall, and Mark just at dinner. You can see plates and stuff. Other people were with us from the people that put it on. And it was just us, and we are just laughing and talking. Not Tom. Tom wasn't laughing because I'm sure we were. He asked us, I remember he asked us a print question, and he said, yeah, but stuff like that doesn't really matter. And me and Marshall and Mark just looked at me and goes, uh-oh. But it was kind of hilarious. Still one of my favorite times. But then you called and then you came. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had actually, I had been with Inksoft for a couple years already. And I came in a day early
Yep.
and had asked to come in and like just do a tour and things that way. And I met with JP at the time, and then I
Yep.
met with Marshall for an hour or so, and then I met with their development team for a little bit. And so I had met Marshall the day before, and so he's like, "Well, come out to dinner." I'm like, "Okay." And what I was going to say is, I didn't know enough about the industry to be nervous. I didn't even know the greatness I was sitting with. And they started asking me a question. I'm like, and I think I'm all that in a slice of bread. And I'm like, oh, and I'm doing this and da 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 da. And I came from this world and blah blah blah. They're like, okay. And then Mark Coudray asked me, well, how much are you paying yourself? And I said, well, I'm just getting rolling. I'm not paying myself yet. I'm putting it all back into the business. And he looked me square in the eyes. He goes, you don't have a business. You have a hobby. And I just went, oh,
So
he's
I'll-
right.
so I'm
And that was the kick in the butt I needed.
Yep. And you know what? If you're ever at a show and, sometimes just because we're on video or we've been around a long time, I've had people say, I saw you at a show, but you were talking to somebody. I didn't want to interrupt. Interrupt. We are nothing special. And I have not met anybody who is, arrogant and think they're all that. Man, if you're at a show and you see, I know, Allie, you feel the same way, or Marshall or me or anybody, Greg, and, just talk to us, email us. Richard Greaves, same way. I tease Richard now because, we're friends. When I first started the industry, he was already the Richard Greaves. He had a monthly column in a magazine. He was already well known. Yeah, there is nobody. None of us are any better than anybody else. I tell people, I said, I've just been doing this a long time. You pick up a few things. That's it. And I hang out with people better than me. Richard Greaves, Marshall, Greg Kitson.
Right? That's how you make yourself better. Surround yourself with people who 100%. Are smarter than you are.
Here's a couple things. Let's, because man, we're running out of time. Jeremy, I've always had the same checklist as to what questions to ask a customer. Do you have your checklist? Gotta love it.
Love checklists.
Gotta love them. I've always recommended dripping skulls for dripping blood for cheer teams, but for some reason, none of them have wanted that yet. They got no style. Greg says the cigar picture. I don't know. It wasn't cigars, but we're around it, and it's usually on my Facebook page. But Chris says good morning. A little late. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Dan says I actually mentioned you in your art files as great files from great artists. You and Tom Wood. Some files I've gotten from both of you were mega layered. Some others were more broken down to the main elements. Both ways are excellent files, better for creating masks or using layers as tools for selections and adjustments. All right. Jeremy says, thanks, Dan. I've always been production minded when setting up files. ESP for steps just makes life easier. So, man, the summit's still going on. How much time do we have? We have 2 minutes. What do you want to talk about real quick? Data or inclusive hiring?
Inclusive hiring. Let's talk about the book that's coming out.
There we go. Inclusive hiring. So if you don't know what inclusive hiring is inclusive. What Allie is passionate about. Marshall is writing a book with Jed from Stakes Manufacturing about hiring people that might have some health deficiencies or I didn't even say if it's handicaps. I don't know how to be
I say physical and mental abilities.
And
different physical and mental abilities.
And there are more and more shops that are tapping into this with the labor shortage. I have a client that has 6 automatics, and he told me when we were talking about it, he goes, I have been doing this forever. And he started pointing out people, and usually it's people that have had trauma injuries. Doing great. Allie, look for Marshall's book with Jed from Stakes coming out at Printing United. Tell us your passion in your company.
Yeah, so this is certainly close to my heart. We had a customer, the Arc of Southern Maryland, come to us, and we were doing a lot of business with us. And then I just made a comment one day that I was really struggling to find and fill certain positions. And they said, well, talk to us about the positions. Maybe we can help you find some employees that would fit. And And so we started to have a conversation, and it was such an aha moment of things I didn't know. Like I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And that's what got us started. I hired Tyler. He has a different mental ability, and he's been with us for about 4 years. And he had to learn uh, the way we run our business and things that way, but we had to learn the best way that he could work. And between the two, I have a very loyal employee who comes with a job coach that is fantastic and has surprised me on so many occasions, because it takes him a lot of repetitive training before he gets a task. But once he has the task, he has it, and he has it very well. And that's common with a lot of head injuries. There's often short-term memory loss. So again, if you have your checklists and you have your SOPs dialed in, there are ways to engage and work with these employees. And they've often had such a struggle finding and keeping a job that when they find a good fit, they're very loyal and work very hard for you.
Yeah.
He is by far my best employee for showing up on time, staying his whole shift. He always, if he runs out of things to do in the screen room, he goes to other departments to find out what he can do and help and jump in. And what I didn't realize was just how observant he is. And one day
Did
I
you
was
tell me
sitting,
he's now setting up a press?
yeah, he can set up the press. And I didn't even realize he knew how to set up the press. Nobody had trained him on it, but he had sat and watched and watched and watched. And one day I was under a crunch. My press operator wasn't there. I needed to be in a meeting. And he's like, well, I'll set up the press while you're in the meeting. And I'm like, you know how to set up the press? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And part of me was just like, okay, let's see if he really does.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he needed a little bit of help on registration, but everything else, the screens were up, they were in the right order, they were inked, they were taped, they were ready to go. We also have Mimi, who has cerebral palsy, and she is nonverbal and wheelchair bound. And she can use a computer using eye gaze and communicate great. Well, she can absolutely build on web stores and pull reports and crunch data and do all of that. Mentally, she's 100% there, but she's physically challenged with her abilities. And she actually came to us through the public schools because in order to graduate, she had to have an internship, and nobody would give her an internship. And the schools are like, is there anything she can do for you? We just want her to be able to graduate. I'm like, absolutely, we'll figure something out. And again, so surprised by her abilities and the things she's able to do for us.
And now you were helping her out, but now she just not only graduated school, she has a career.
Yep.
And you told me before, she handles all your online stores of creating them, all your online web stores. She's pulling data and allows you that you don't have to be at your business, where you can work on your business and not in your business.
Exactly.
I think the other thing, Allie, and you can speak of this more, and we're going to go over, but I don't care on this topic. When I was talking to Bill Coppins at ATS, he said the hard part, Alan, is that when there is a problem, he goes, you start feeling emotionally sad. He goes, there was a guy who was a great employee, but there was something that broke company rules. And he called the guy's coach and he says, all right. He goes, Bill, you're thinking about this emotionally. He goes, how would you handle it with a regular if he didn't have the handicap? He goes, I'd have to let him go. He goes, do that. And the coach came with him, walked them all through and do it. He goes, you're not helping him. And he goes, this will be a huge learning thing for him, and he will stand on his feet. And I think, Allie, maybe you could talk about this, that you're just not on your own with this person that, just has to work different.
Yep.
And you're not on your own. They have coaches, and you have a team that, you can rely on. Would that be true, you found?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm in it. My heart is in it. I hope people do this for the right reasons, but there's absolutely benefits for the business. One being that they come with a job coach. We have to do monthly evaluations.
Yep.
And any issues that we have, the coach takes them and trains them. When we first hired Tyler, the coach came and got the same training he did, and then was able to be with him and help him, so it didn't take time away. There's also, depending on their status and where they're coming from when you're hiring them, there's actually a tax benefit you can get. I believe, I'd have to confirm this, it might be different state to state and things that way, but there's a 30%, you get 30% of their salary back as a tax deduction.
Amazing. So yeah, it's not just you're doing a good thing, man. You are getting what is the most needed thing in our industry now, and that is labor.
Right.
And good. You know, what do we say? I just need, if they would just show up on time. There are people that we talk about, I feel they're just afraid to work.
Yep.
They're not afraid to work. They want to work. Give me the career. Give me the chance. And yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
Jeb's entire business is around inclusive hiring. Mine, I've had three or four. I have two still. I've had 3 or 4 in the time period that we've been hiring and doing that. His entire business is surrounded by that, and it came about because his brother has autism.
Yep.
And was struggling finding a career and things that way. So he's much more well versed of speaking about it. And then Marshall and he wrote this book together that's coming out. And if it's in your heart or you truly believe it can benefit your business, I'd absolutely get your hands on this book and consider
yeah.
doing
And
inclusive
we are
hiring.
talking, I know Tyler in your shop, he is not just, just not doing menial task of folding napkins, man. He is in charge of your screen reclaim unit, which is a passion of mine. And it is efficient and done and going well.
And we have manual screen reclaim. We don't have a automatic screen reclaim.
Absolutely.
So he's doing.
He's using a dip tank, pressure washer, and making sure he knows that is the screen. That's the lifeblood of the screen print operation.
The other thing he does, the first thing he does for the first 10 minutes when he comes in the morning, he does a screen inventory and lets me know what mesh count and where every screen is, from whether they're sitting in reclaim, whether they're sitting ready to be coated, whether they're sitting coated but not exposed, whether they're exposed, whether they're sitting in the racks because we've printed the job and we're just waiting, to make sure we're not doing any reprints. So I know what mesh, how many, and where every screen is in my shop every morning, so I can look at production upcoming jobs and go, hey, we're going to be short on 156s. I should probably order a few.
Yeah.
And he lets, and there's a threshold. He's doing it in a program that we developed that gives me kind of a green, yellow, red based on an algorithm that we put in that, okay, here's a red, we're not going to have enough screens. I either need to get some more screens reclaimed, or I need to order screens because we've blown some out or they've gone out of tension.
Absolutely.
And we can't get them the right tension. There's plenty for Tyler to do around the shop. And it's not just janitorial work. That's kind of the misnomer.
Yes.
One of the things that ARC always comes to me is so many businesses are like, yeah, we'll hire him as a janitor, or the grocery stores will hire him to retrieve carts from the parking lots.
Yeah. No.
And I don't, or wash dishes in a restaurant. And I don't know about you, but those are great, high school and entry level first jobs, but that's not what I want to do for the next 20 years.
You've given Tyler and Mimi a career and something they can be proud of. And they're part of a team, and it's a culture thing. And so that's off to you. I know at ATS, when Bill first told me that, he goes, we've been doing this for years, he started pointing them out. He goes, yeah, you wouldn't even know. I had no idea. They were just employees. So it was incredible.
Yep.
So, man. All right. Anything else you want to say on that?
No, I'm not running off. I'm here for the duration, but I do have a date with the sailboat. So
all right.
It is Friday afternoon.
Enjoy. Hold on, Dan just posted something. We do this at our shop. It's rewarding to help someone build a career. Half the time for us, it can be a bit less efficient to be with them, coaching them along with the coach, but you're giving back and assisting someone to build confidence and a skill. It's a very rewarding. It is that too. And if it builds your business and you need to take a little time, how many times have we talked about that? Man, I'm worried about training somebody and then they go and leave. They're going to stay with you.
Right. So, well, and also, again, this is not what it's about.
It's
But
not a charity.
because we did this and we helped Mimi graduate, our county gave us what's called a Beacon of Light Award.
Yeah.
I'm on the Chesapeake. We've got lots of lighthouses, so everything's light. So we received the Beacon of Light Award for last year as a small business benefiting the community. And I've actually probably got 15 or 20 orders because it was visibility for companies that either didn't know we were here or have the same values that we do, and said, oh, okay, yeah, you're doing all of that in our community, we're going to use you. So it was a little bit of a business bump too. Again, not the reason we do it, but
it's the capitalists. You know what? They're doing a job, and they need to be paid and going to be. You have employees, and I'm trying to build a business. So if them there is bringing business, it helps me pay them, and everything grows. It's a win. It's called being a capitalist society. We love it.
Yep, absolutely.
So, wonderful. Well, we're going to try to end it there. We are over a little time. Allie, thank you so much. I appreciate, man, everything you bring to this industry, for coming on the show last minute, and your friendship.
Absolutely.
So
Thank
great.
you, Alan.
Your stories are great. I'm going to try to not break down. Our thoughts and prayers go to the Glenn Shaw family.
Yes.
Glenn is going to be missed. And
Absolutely.
it's a little hard. I know if you haven't met him, and some of you that are in the academy, Greg and all that, if you haven't heard, Glenn Shaw passed away unexpectedly. So, we'll go from there. So everybody, appreciate you. Those of you I've met, haven't met, been on the show. I know Marshall feels the same way, and Allie. This is an industry, but as an industry, we are, you build, it's all about relationships, and appreciate everyone. So,
yep.
Awesome. All right. Have a great
Alan,
week. Yeah.
Do you have any sponsors or advertisers for your show that we neglected to discuss?
Nope. We're unsponsored right now.
All right.
We're waiting for you to sponsor it.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't sure. I had saw Marshall's Mid-Journey experience.
Yeah. Nope.
So.
We do want to talk. Again, Shirt Lab is a great thing. What you guys are doing, that is, that is a think tank. That is, where you're just not going to go on a message board, and just say, okay, everybody's giving their opinions.
Right. Oh yeah, and one thing on that, if you missed Shirt Lab Nashville and you are a member of Shirt Lab Tribe, the videos are already up.
Yep.
In Circle, you can go look at all the videos for that learning experience.
Absolutely. So
as part of your tribe membership. And if you're not a Shirt Lab Tribe member and want that education, come join Tribe. You can go to shirtlabtribe.com and see how to.
Yep. Got it up there. I would recommend it. It's incredible. I'm glad. I know Easy Way, as far as sponsoring it, we're glad to do that and be part of that. So,
yes, absolutely.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Be safe.
Bye.